Hello, my name is Patrick Finn. Welcome to EastLine Theater's continuing presentation of Homer's The Iliad, as translated by Ian Johnston. Today I'll be reading Book 21, Achilles Fights the River. When the Trojans reached the ford across the Xanthus, lovely swirling river born of immortal Zeus, Achilles split them in two groups, chasing one across the plain toward the city, where the previous day Achaeans had fled in terror, when glorious Hector had prevailed. Some Trojans fled back there in panic. Hera sent fog in front of them to slow them down. But half the Trojans were crammed in along the river, trapped by its deep currents and its silver eddies. They fell in there, making a huge commotion. The noise roared down along the rushing river banks, amplifying the din. Men thrashed around back and forth as they were sucked down in the current, screaming. Just as fire drives flights of locusts to seek refuge in some river, when the tireless flames attack them in a sudden onrush and they sink below the river, that's how, faced with Achilles' attacking charge, a confused mass of chariots and men filled up the deep and swirling waters of the river Xanthus. Then divinely born Achilles left his spear beside a tamarisk bush, and jumped into the stream like an inhuman thing, armed only with his sword, his heart intent on killing. Turning in all directions, he kept on striking. The men his sword slaughtered cried out in terror. The water turned blood red. Just as other fish swim off from a huge dolphin, filling safe corners of some sheltered harbor, fearful because the beast eats all it captures, that's how Trojans huddled then under hanging banks, all along the stream edge of that murderous river. When Achilles' arm grew weary from the killing, he plucked out of the river 12 young men alive, as blood payment for the killing of Patroclus, Menoetius' son. He led them up into dry land like stupefied fawns, tied their hands behind them, using belts they wore around their woven tunics, and gave them to his men to lead back to the ships. Then he jumped in again, eager to keep killing. But then Achilles met someone fleeing the river, Lycaon, a son of Dardanian Priam, whom he'd captured once before in a night attack, taking him against his will from his father's orchard. With his sharp bronze, Lycaon had been cutting young shoots from off a fig tree to make chariot rails. He had the bad luck to meet God like Achilles. That time Achilles took him in his ship and sold him in well-built Lemnos, where the son of Jason had paid the purchase price. From there, Aetion, a friend and guest from Imbros, had ransomed Lycaon, paying a huge sum, then sent him on to Arispe. He escaped from there in secret and went home, back to his father's house. Once he returned from Lemnos, for 11 days his heart enjoyed his friends. On the 12th, some god threw him back again into Achilles' hands, who was about to ship him, against Lycaon's wishes, down to dwell with Hades. When swift-footed god like Achilles saw Lycaon totally unarmed, without his helmet, shield, or spear, for he'd thrown these on the ground, exhausted after he escaped the river, worn out and sweating in all his lower limbs, Achilles, much surprised, spoke to his own courageous heart. "What's this? My eyes are witnessing something amazing. Great-hearted Trojans I've just slaughtered will rise up again, up out of murky darkness, if this man's avoided death returned like this after I'd sold him off in sacred Lemnos. The gray sea, which holds many back against their will, hasn't seemed to stop him. But come, let him taste my spear point. I'll see, and in my heart confirm, if he'll return as he's just done, or if life-giving earth, which keeps even strong men down, will hold him." That's what Achilles thought, as he stood there waiting. Lycaon, dazed with fear, approached Achilles, eager to clasp his knees in supplication, heart desperate to escape dark fate and evil death. God, like Achilles, raised his long spear, prepared to strike, but Lycaon, stopping down, slipped underneath the spear, then clasped Achilles' knees. Flying above his back, the spear stuck in the ground, hungry for human flesh. With one hand, Lycaon grabbed Achilles' knee. His other clutched the spear, refusing to let go. He begged for mercy, addressing Achilles with these winged words. By your knees, Achilles, I beg you to respect me as a suppliant. Have peace on me. I claim that sacred right, my lord, because it was at your table I first ate Demeter's grain the very day you seized me in that well-built orchard. You led me far from my father and my friends, then sold me off in sacred Lemnos. For me, you got the value of 100 oxen, but I was ransomed for 3 times that price. It's now 12 days since I reached Ilion after my ordeal. Once more, deadly fate has placed me in your hands. I do believe Father Zeus must hate me to give me to you for a second time. My mother, Laothoe, daughter of Altes, gave birth to me to live a shortened life. Altes rules over war-loving Lelegus and steep Pedasus by the river Satnioiases. His daughter married Priam, who had many other wives. She had 2 sons. Now you'll have slaughtered both. You killed fine Polydorus with those men fighting at the front when your sharp spear sent him to die. Now death comes for me as well. I don't expect to escape your hands this time, since some god has guided me right to them. But I'll say one more thing. Take it to heart. Don't kill me. I'm not from the same womb as Hector, the man who killed your comrade, that kind and powerful warrior. So Lycaon begged for mercy from Achilles, but the response he got was brutal. You fool, don't offer me a ransom or some plea. Before Patroclus met his deadly fate, sparing Trojans pleased my heart much more. I took many overseas and sold them. But now not one of them escapes his death. No one whom God delivers to my hands. Here in front of Ilion, not one, not a single Trojan, especially none of Priam's children. So now, my friend, you too must die. Why be sad about it? Patroclus died, a better man than you. And look at me. You see how fine I am, how tall, how handsome. My father's a fine man, the mother who gave birth to me a goddess, yet over me as well hangs fate, my death. There'll come a dawn, or noon, or evening, when some man will take my life in battle. He'll strike me with his spear, or with an arrow shot from his bowstring. Achilles finished. Then Lycaon's knees gave way, his heart collapsed. He let go of the spear and crouched there, both his hands stretched out. Achilles pulled out his sharp sword and struck, hitting him on the collarbone beside his neck. The whole 2-edged blade sliced into him. Lycaon fell, lying face down on the earth. His dark blood flowed out and soaked the ground. Achilles seized him by the foot, then flung him in the river, shouting out in triumph. His words had wings. Lie there among the fish. They'll lick blood from your wound with no respect. Your mother won't set you on your funeral bed lamenting over you. No, Scamander, the swirling river, will carry you away to the broad lap of the sea. Many fish will swim up to the darkly rippled surface to eat white fat from Lycaon. So die, all you fleeing Trojans, until we reach that sacred city, Ilion, with me there right behind you, fighting and killing you. Your flowing river with its silver eddies won't help, for all those bulls you've sacrificed all these years, all the sure-footed horses you've thrown alive into its swirling pools. No matter, you'll suffer an evil fate, till every one of you is paid in full for Patroclus' death, for Achaea is dead, the men you slaughtered by our swift ships when I was not among them there. Achilles' words enraged a heart in river Xanthus, who wondered how he might stop God like Achilles from his slaughter and protect the Trojans from disaster. Meanwhile, Peleus' son, gripping his long-shadowed spear, still eager to kill more, charged Asteropaeus, son of Pelagon, born to the broad river Axius, and Acasaminus' eldest daughter, Peribea. The dark, swirling river had had sex with her. Achilles went at Asteropaeus, who stood there facing him, holding 2 spears. In his anger at the slaughter of young soldiers in the battle, whom Achilles kept butchering along the stream, showing no pity, Xanthus then put fighting strength into Asteropaeus. But when the 2 men had approached each other, moving close together, godlike Achilles was the first to speak. Who are you that dare to come against me? Where are you from? Children who confront me leave their parents full of sorrow. The glorious son of Pelagon then said in reply, Great-hearted son of Peleus, why ask me my lineage? I come from Paeonia, a fertile country far from here, leading Paeonians, marrying men carrying long spears. It's now 11 days since I came here to Ilion. I'm born from Axius, the wide-streaming river, whose waters are the loveliest which flow upon this earth. Axius fathered a famous spearman, Pelagon, whose son they say I am. But now, splendid Achilles, let us fight. In response to that speech from Asteropaeus, godlike Achilles raised his Pelian ash spear. But then Asteropaeus, an ambidextrous man, threw 2 spears at once. One hit Achilles' shield, but did not break through. The gold, gift of a god, had checked it. The other hit Achilles a glancing blow on his right arm at the elbow. Dark blood flowed out. But the spear passed over him and struck the ground, still eager to taste flesh. Then Achilles, in his turn, threw a straight flying spear at Asteropaeus, hoping to kill him, but he missed the man, hitting the high river bank, driving half that ash spear deep in the ground. Drawing the short sword by his thigh, Peleus' son, enraged, went after Asteropaeus, who was trying to pull the spear Achilles threw out of the river bank with his huge fist. He failed. 3 times he shifted it in his frantic haste to grab it, but 3 times he had to abandon the attempt. The 4th time, his heart was keen to bend and break the ash spear of Achilles, but before he could, Achilles himself charged in and took his life with a sword thrust in the belly by the navel. His guts fell out onto the ground. As he lay gasping, darkness veiled his eyes. Jumping on his chest, Achilles stripped his armor off, boasting aloud, Lie there. It's hard to compete with children of the mighty son of Kronos, even though you are descended from some river. You claim your family stems from a broad flowing stream, but I boast a family coming from great Zeus. The man who is my father, Peleus, son of Aeacus, rules many Myrmidons. Aeacus came from Zeus himself, and Zeus is stronger than rivers flowing to the sea. So Zeus's line is stronger than all those descended from a river. Look beside you. There's a great stream there, but he can't help you. For there's no way to battle against Zeus, son of Kronos. Even Lord Achelous cannot equal him, nor the great power of deep-flowing Oceanus, from whom flow all rivers, seas, fountains, and deep wells. Even Oceanus is afraid of lightning from great Zeus, and his thunder when it crashes in the skies. Saying this, he pulled his bronze spear from the riverbank. Achilles left the corpse of Asteropaeus, lying there in the sand, dark water lapping round him. Fish and eels then went at him, nibbling and chewing off the fat around his kidneys. Achilles moved away, attacking the Paeonian charioteers still crouched beside the flowing river, terrified once they'd seen their best man butchered in that desperate conflict on the powerful sword of the son of Peleus. There Achilles killed Thasilicus, Mydon, Astypolus, Nisus, Thracius, Aeneas, and Ophilistes. Swift Achilles would have killed still more Paeonians, but the deep-flowing river, in its anger taking on a human form, called out, speaking from a deep swirling pool, Achilles, you may be the most powerful of men, but you're inflicting too much damage here. Yes, the gods are always there to help you, and if Kronos' son is not now enabling you to kill all Trojans, at least drive them off far from my stream. Carry out your work, this butchery, out there on the plain. Now corpses fill my channels. I can't let my waters flow through anywhere to reach the glimmering sea. I'm choking on the dead, while you keep up these harsh atrocities. Come, you leader of your people, let me be. I find your actions here astounding. In reply, swift-footed Achilles and addressed the river. Divinely raised Scamander, it shall be as you request, but I'll not stop killing these proud Trojans till I have them cornered in their city and have tested Hector in a fight, and he kills me or I kill him. Saying this, Achilles fell upon the Trojans like something superhuman. Then Scamander, the deep-flowing river, cried out to Apollo, "What's happening, Lord of the Silver Bow, children of Zeus? You're not following Zeus's plans. He clearly told you to assist the Trojans, to defend them until evening comes, casting its shadows on the fertile farmland." The river spoke. Then famous spearman Achilles jumped from the bank into the middle of the stream. The river attacked him with a rising flood, stirring all his waters into seething turmoil, sweeping up many corpses crowded in the shoals, men slaughtered by Achilles. Roaring like a bull, the river hurled these bodies up onto the shore, preserving in its lovely stream those still alive by hiding them in deep, wide pools. Around Achilles, huge waves towered threateningly, beating down his shield. The breaking waters pushed him backwards. Achilles lost his footing. His hand reached out to grab a large elm tree, fully grown, but the tree came loose, roots and all, tearing the whole river bank away. As it fell in the river, its thick branches blocked that lovely stream, damming its flow. In terror, Achilles scrambled up out of the raging waters, trying on his swift feet to run out to the plain. But the great god wasn't done. With a dark wave, he went after god like Achilles to prevent the killing and to rescue Trojans from destruction. Peleus' son ran off as far as one spear throw, moving as fast as a black eagle plummets, the hunting bird which is the strongest and the fastest of all flying things. That's how Achilles ran. The bronze armor on his chest was clanging fearfully as he swerved out from underneath the flooding river, desperate to escape. But with a tremendous roar, Scamander's flood rushed out in pursuit behind him. Just as a man laying out a ditch from a dark spring to his plants and gardens digs a water channel, mattock in hand, removing what obstructs the flow, and the water as it starts to run pushes aside the pebbles and then, gaining momentum, flows down and overtakes the man who's guiding it. That's how the flooding wave kept clutching at Achilles for all his speed, since gods have much more strength than men. Every time swift-footed god like Achilles tried stopping the fight back to see if all the gods who live in spacious heaven were forcing him to flee, a tremendous wave from that heaven-fed river would crash down around his shoulders. He jumped clear, heart panicking, but the river kept tugging at his legs with a strong undertow, washing out the ground beneath his feet. Then, gazing up into the wide sky, the son of Peleus cried out, "Father Zeus! Why is no god standing by me here in this pitiful state, rescuing me from this river? After this I can endure everything. I don't blame any Olympian as much as I blame my own dear mother, who led me astray with lies, telling me I'd die from the swift arrows of Apollo under Trojan walls and fully armed. Now I wish I'd been killed by Hector, the best man of these natives to this region. Then a fine man would have done the killing, another fine man would have been destroyed. But now it's been ordained that I'm to suffer an ignoble death, caught by this great river like some child in care of pigs, swept away while trying to cross a torrent in a rainstorm." Then Poseidon and Pallas Athena, coming up quickly, stood in human form beside him. They joined their hands with his, and with their words they pledged their help. Poseidon spoke out first. "Son of Peleus, don't be so afraid. You need have no fear. We too come from the gods here to help you, me and Pallas Athena. And Zeus approves. It's not ordained that you're to die here, killed by some river, which will soon recede, as you will see. We have advice for you if you'll listen. Don't hold back your hands in murderous warfare till you've cornered inside the famous walls of Troy those men now in retreat before you. Once you've taken Hector's life, return back to the ships. We are giving you a chance for glory." With these words, the two gods went away. Achilles, greatly moved by what the gods had said, set off, running across the plain, now full of flooding water, with many lovely weapons of the slaughtered men floating there among the corpses. As he went, he raised his legs high, striving against the current. The broad flowing river could not slow him down once Athena had put great power in Achilles. But Scamander did not hold his fury back. Growing even more enraged at Peleus' son, He raised himself up in a high-crested wave and called out with a shout to Samoius, "Dear brother, let's both together counter this man's power, since he'll soon demolish Priam's city. Trojans will not stand up to him in fight. Come quickly, help me. Fill your streams of water from your springs. Whip up your torrents, then stand in a huge wave, raising a din with rocks and tree trunks, so we can stop this violent man now in a conquering rage like some god. I don't think his strength will help him, or his beauty, or that lovely armor. That will lie somewhere underneath the flood, buried in slime. I'll cover him in sand with a massive layer of silt on top, beyond all measurement. I'll hide him there with so much mud, Achaeans will not know how to collect his bones. There where he'll lie, I'll make him a tomb. He won't need a mound when Achaeans organize his funeral." Saying this, Scamander crested high against Achilles, then charged, seething with foam and blood and corpses. The dark wave of the heaven-fed river rose, towering above Achilles, about to overwhelm him. But Hera, afraid for Achilles, cried out, fearing the great deep swirling river would sweep him off. She called out to Hephaestus, her dear son, "Rouse yourself, my crippled child. We think that you're a match for swirling Xanthus in a fight. Come quickly. Help Achilles with a giant outburst of your flames. I'll stir some winds, west winds, harsh sea blasts, and white south wind to whip on your destructive fires, so they may burn dead Trojans and their weapons. You must go along the river banks, burning trees, attacking River Xanthus with your flames. Don't let him slow you down in any way, not with gentle words or making threats. Don't check your fury till I tell you to. I'll give you a shout. Then you can pull back your inexhaustible fire." Hephaestus then prepared a prodigious blaze. First it burned all the plain, incinerating corpses. The main bodies of men slaughtered by Achilles scattered everywhere. The entire plain dried up. The shimmering river waters were held back. Just as a harvest-time north wind quickly dries well-watered orchards to the farmer's great delight, that's how the whole plain then grew dry, as Hephaestus burned up the dead. Then he turned his blazing flames against the river, burning elms, willows, tamarisks, clover, rushes, sedge, all growing in abundance along that lovely stream. In the river pools, eels and fish were much distressed. They jumped everywhere in that fine river, suffering the fiery blasts prepared by that resourceful god Hephaestus. The river, too, was burned. So Xanthus cried out, calling to the god, "No god, Hephaestus, can stand against you. I cannot fight you when you burn with flames like this, so stop, end this strife. God like Achilles can continue. Let him drive the Trojans from their city. What do I care about assisting in this war?" The river spoke, still burning from the fire, his lovely waters seething. Just as a cauldron with hot flames heating it boils inside and melts the fat from off a well-fed hog, bubbling over once dry split wood is set down under it. That's how the fire burned that lovely stream. Its seething waters would no longer flow downriver, held up there, defeated by the power of that fiery blast, made by the skill of god Hephaestus. Then the river, with a strong appeal to Hera, spoke these winged words. "Hera, why is your son burning up my stream, doing it more injury than any other? I'm not as much to blame as all the rest, the ones who helped the Trojans. If you say so, I'll stop, if Hephaestus stops as well. And I'll swear this oath, never again will I protect the Trojan from his evil death, not even when all Troy itself is burning, ablaze with all-consuming fire, started by Achaea's warlike sons." White-armed goddess Hera, as soon as she heard this, spoke to Hephaestus, her dear son. "Hold off, Hephaestus, splendid child. It's not right to hurt a deathless god like this, just for the sake of mortal men." When Hera spoke, Hephaestus extinguished the stupendous fire at once. The river's stream flowed once more in its channel. When the fighting spirit in Xanthus had been broken, the two gods fought no longer. Hera had stopped them, though she was still enraged. But now the other gods began a heavy conflict and a cruel fight amongst themselves. The spirits in their hearts pushed them in various directions. As they clashed with a tremendous din, the wide earth cried out, and mighty heaven pealed just like a trumpet. Sitting on Olympus, Zeus heard the sound. His heart laughed with delight to see these gods go at it in mutual conflict. They no longer stood aloof. Shield-breaker Ares started it, attacking Athena first with his bronze spear and taunting her. "You dog-fly, why is it you're once again inciting gods to fight each other, heart-prompted by your own foolhardiness? Don't you recall that moment you provoked Diomedes, Tydeus' son, to wound me? We all saw it. You grabbed a spear yourself and drove it at me, scratching my fair skin. Well, now I think you'll pay for all you've done." Saying this, Ares struck Athena's tasseled aegis, that fearful aegis which not even Zeus's lightning can overcome. Blood-stained Ares' long spear struck it. Drawing back, Athena picked up in her strong hand a large black jagged rock lying there on the plain. In earlier ages, men had set it there to indicate the boundary of a field. With this rock, Athena struck raging Ares in the neck. His legs collapsed. Ares fell. Stretched out, he covered 700 feet. His hair was dirtied with the dust. His armor rang. Pallas Athena laughed, then cried in boastful triumph. Her words had wings. "You fool, still so ignorant of how much stronger I can claim to be than you, when you seek to match my power? This is the way you'll answer now in full your mother's vengeful rage. She's angry, planning nasty things for you since you left Achaeans to support the arrogant Trojans." With these words, she turned her glittering eyes away. Zeus's daughter Aphrodite then took Ares and led him off by hand. As he kept groaning, he found it difficult to get his spirit back. When white-armed goddess Hera saw Athena, she spoke, addressing her with these winged words. "Look there, child of aegis-bearing Zeus, you tireless one. That dog-fly once again is leading man-killing Ares through the crowd away from battle. Go after her." Once Hera spoke, Athena dashed off in pursuit, delighted in her heart. Charging Aphrodite, she struck her in the chest with her powerful fist. Aphrodite's knees gave way, her heart collapsed. So both gods lay there on the all-nourishing earth. Athena spoke out winged words of triumph. "Let all those who assist the Trojans end up like this in warfare with Achaeans, with all the fortitude and boldness Aphrodite showed in helping Ares, standing up against my fighting power. We'll then soon end these hostile fights once we've destroyed well-peopled Iliad." As Athena spoke, white-armed goddess Hera smiled. Then the mighty Earthshaker spoke to Apollo. "Phoebus, why do we two stand aloof? That's not right, now that others have begun. It would be shameful if we both went back to Olympus, to Zeus's bronze-floored home without a fight. Since you're the younger one, you must begin. It's not fair play if I do, since I'm your elder, and thus I know more. How foolish you are with your thoughtless heart. Don't you recall the trouble we two had around Troy, just a pair of us alone with no other gods, that time when Zeus made us come here to work for a whole year at a fixed wage for proud King Laomedon? He was our master and told us what to do. I built the Trojans a wide and splendid wall around their city to make it impregnable. You, Phoebus, worked with his cattle herds, taking his shambling, bent-torn livestock through Ida's wooded spurs and valleys. When the joyful season stopped our working there, that despicable Laomedon robbed us. He kept our wages and sent us off with threats. He promised he'd tie up your hands and feet, then in some distant land sell you as a slave. He said he'd slice off both our ears with bronze. We came back really angry in our hearts, enraged about those promised wages he'd withheld. That's the man whose people you're now keen to favor. You don't join us, so we destroy these arrogant Trojans once and for all, along with all their children and their honorable wives as well." Lord Apollo, who shoots from far, answered Poseidon. "Earthshaker, you'd never call me prudent if I fought with you over human beings. Those pitiful creatures are like the leaves, now full of blazing life, eating nourishment the earth provides, then fading into death. No, let's quickly end our quarrel, leaving these mortal men to fight among themselves. Saying this, he turned away, thinking it shameful to fight in battle against his father's brother. But his sister, forest goddess Artemis, queen of all wild beasts, was furious with him. She spoke to him with scorn. So, far worker, you're running off, ceding total victory to Poseidon, giving him an easy glory. You fool! Why do you carry such a bow as useless as the wind? From now on, I never want to hear you boasting the way you used to among deathless gods, how you could fight Poseidon face to face. Far-shooting Apollo did not answer, but Hera, Zeus's honored wife, was angry. She went at the archer goddess, insulting her. You shameless bitch, you dare stand against me? You'll find it hard to match my power, even if you have your bow and Zeus made you a lion among women, allowing you to kill whichever one of them you please. I say it's better to be slaughtering wild beasts, deer in the mountains, than to fight all out with those more powerful. Still, if you're keen to learn about this war, to understand how much more powerful I am, let's fight, since you are challenging my strength. With these words, Hera caught both arms of Artemis in her left hand. With her right, she grabbed the bow, snatching it and its quiver off her shoulders. Then she slapped her with those weapons. As she did so, Hera smiled to see Artemis twist away and squirm. The swift arrows tumbled out. Artemis ran off, crying like a pigeon speeding from a hawk, flying to some hollow cleft among the rocks, for she's not fated to be caught. That's how Artemis escaped, in tears, leaving her bow lying there. Then Hermes, the guide, killer of Argus, spoke out, addressing Leto. I'll not fight you, Leto. It's dangerous to come to blows with those married to cloud-gatherer Zeus. So you can tell immortal gods your great strength conquered me, and you can even boast about it. Hermes finished. Leto then collected the curved bow and arrows, which had fallen here and there down in the swirling dust. Then she left, taking her daughter's weapons with her. Artemis returned then to Olympus, to Zeus's home, with its bronze floor. The girl sat on her father's lap, her immortal garments shaking as she wept. Her father, Kronos' son, held on to him, asked her with a gentle laugh, My dear child, which of the heavenly gods has treated you so nastily, as if you were committing some evil act in public? Then Artemis, with her beautiful headband, answered Zeus. It was your wife who hit me, father, white-armed Hera. Now, thanks to her, immortal gods engage in fights and quarrels. As these two talked together in this fashion, Phoebus Apollo went to sacred Iliad. He was concerned about that well-built city wall, afraid Danaans might breach it that very day, contravening what fate ordained. The other gods, who live forever, went back to Olympus, some incensed and others relishing their triumph. They sat down by Zeus, lord of the dark cloud. Meanwhile, Achilles still kept on killing Trojans, both soldiers and their sure-footed horses, too. Just as smoke rises up, reaching spacious heaven, when a city burns from flames set by wrathful gods, that's how Achilles brought Trojans death and danger. Then old Priam stood on that wall built by gods, observing huge Achilles as he drove the Trojans ahead of him in total panic, their spirit broken. With a groan, he left the wall, came down to the ground, and summoned the well-known sentries at the gate. Hold the doors wide open with your hands until the fleeing troops come to the city, for Achilles is coming closer, driving them in panic. I think disaster looms. When the men have gathered here inside the wall, able to get relief, then close the gates, those tight-fitting doors, once more. I'm afraid this murderer may jump inside our walls. Then the men pushed back the bars, opening the gates, and gave a saving light for those men on the run. Then Apollo charged out to meet Achilles, seeking to protect the Trojans from destruction as they ran back straight for the high-walled city, suffering from thirst and dusty from the plain. Still in a rage, Achilles chased them with his spear, his heart filled with strong and unremitting fury, still eager to win glory. At that moment, Achaea's sons would have captured Troy's high gates, if Phoebus Apollo had not intervened by stirring up noble godlike Agenor, Antenor's son, a powerful warrior. In his heart, Apollo instilled courage and then stood by him, leaning against the oak tree covered in thick mist, so he might ward off the heavy hand of death. When Agenor saw Achilles, sacker of cities, he made a stand, his heart pondering many things as he stood there. Agenor stood up straight and waited, the heart within him prepared for war and keen to fight. Just as a leopard emerges from thick undergrowth to face a hunter, with no fear in its heart, no hint of flight when it hears the baying hounds, even if the hunter first hits it with his spear, the wounded beast will not lose its fighting spirit until it closes with him or is killed itself. That's how godlike Agenor, noble Antenor's son, refused to run before fighting Achilles. Holding his rounded shield in front of him, he aimed his spear directly at Achilles and shouted out, "Glorious Achilles, I'm sure you've set your heart on destroying the city which proud Trojans hold this very day. What foolishness! Much pain must still be suffered in that enterprise. We who live in Troy are men with courage, and there are lots of us. We'll guard Iliad in front of our dear parents, wives, and sons. Here you'll meet your doom, though as a fighter you are so formidable and brave." Then Agenor threw his sharp spear from his massive hand. He hit Achilles on the shin below the knee. The spear did not miss its man. The armor on his leg, newly hammered tin, gave out a fearful clang. But the spear just struck the ground and bounced off without going through. The god's gift had protected him. Then Peleus' son in turn went for godlike Agenor. But Apollo did not let him win the glory there. He snatched Agenor up, hid him in dense mist, and sent him quietly away from battle. After that, he led the son of Peleus astray, far from Trojan soldiers. The far shooter tricked him by standing right before Achilles' feet, looking exactly like Agenor. Achilles charged off in pursuit, chasing Apollo out across the plain, past wheat fields, turning him towards the river, the deep swirling Scamander. Apollo raced on, only a little bit ahead, using his cunning to trick Achilles with his pace, so he'd think he could catch up. Meanwhile, the other Trojans, fleeing in confusion, came crowding in the city, throngs of them, cramming the gates, happy to be there. They did not dare to wait outside the wall to check who made it back and who had perished in the fight. They streamed into the city in an eager rush, all whose legs and knees had brought them safely in. That is the end of Book 21. Tomorrow will be Book 22, The Death of Hector.